What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next we're going to be going over a couple of the books that I just picked up in this collection recently, specifically to talk about how buying collections isn't all, roses and sunshine. Sometimes you come across things that are problems in the books, and this is two examples, and it's two of the bigger books in the collection. So that's the type of stuff you need to watch out for. Just always got to remember that. And we're going to go over that. We're going to go over the books, specifically what the issues are and what to look out for. Stay tuned. All right, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So if you haven't seen any of my recent unboxing videos that I've done for this collection, I bought a collection somewhere, probably, I haven't done a total count on the books yet, somewhere between probably about 550 and 600 books, a lot of them Golden Age books, some Silver Age. I bought it along with Big B McFly, the comic guy, also on YouTube. His name is Brian. And I started going through those boxes, started looking through the books and everything, and man, it was rough because it was just because of the first book. I decided there was one book I decided to check first. And it was this one. Action Comics, number 89. Awesome Action Comics book. Like, incredible cover. Like, the colors are just killer on this copy. And that was, like, one of the big, things I liked about it. This is probably one of my favorite books that came out of this collection. And there's something pretty wrong with it. So this one, we're going to talk about this one, what went wrong with this one. And so then when I found that, I started checking, some of the other bigger books, just kind of quickly, and I was doing this late at night, so I didn't check everything, but I came across another one. Problem. Superman, number 61. Also one of the bigger books that's in this collection. If you're not familiar with this book, it might look unassuming with the cover, but this is the first appearance of Green Kryptonite, and it's Superman's first return to home. So it's a multi-key book. And I knew it was going to be lower grade regardless, and I generally expected this one to be lower grade as well. But there are some frustrating things. Now I'll say, a couple of the books I checked, there were some positives. There were a couple that were a little higher grades than I was expecting, but man, both of these sting, and so that's why I wanted to talk about this and, just kind of go over that with the risk of buying raw, especially Golden Age, and the types of things you need to look out for, things you need to check. Now, when you're buying a collection, you can't check every book. I bought this across the country. I can't check them. And so you have to just know that this type of stuff is going to happen. You're going to find issues with books that are in the collection. Either it's going to be missing centerfolds or married covers or color touch or whatever. And there's stuff that you're going to come across, but you just need to look for it. So if you are buying a collection and you're doing it, to sell, if you are a responsible dealer, you will check your books before you sell them. And now I've bought a lot of books out there that have had problems, and so it happens. People miss things. I get that too, but you should try to check stuff as closely as you can to make sure that when you're selling something to someone, you can at least be open and clear about what's going on with that book or with the books that you're selling. So let's start with the Action 89. And after I talk about it some, we'll do kind of a camera flip down to take a look at the interiors. We'll start with the Action 89. So like I said, colors just killer on this copy. Just such a cool cover. And so I was like, I'm going to check this one out first, do the page count. I open it up, and I knew it was a detached cover. You could just tell looking at it. I open it up, and I was like, something isn't right. And so then I just to make sure I was right on my quick assessment, I started doing a page count, and this is a 52-page book, meaning that it is the cover, then 12 pages to center, and then 12 more pages, and then the back cover. So that means that you have 48 sides of interior pages and then 4 sides of the covers. So that's what you should have. Now, sometimes in the Golden Age, there can be some weird stuff. It doesn't always go, even number to center and that kind of thing. But that's the general rule. And this one had 14 pages to center. So I was like, woo, that is definitely almost certainly wrong, because that would be for a 60-page book. And then the second half had 11 pages. So I was like, oh, like it's probably missing stuff too. Then when you look at the spine, you can tell this cover does not go with this interior. That's the issue here. Somebody had married this cover on a different Action Comics interior. So it has the Action Comics interior from Action Comics 73, and it has the cover from Action Comics 89. The 73 interior is missing 3 pages. So there are things going on. Now, it doesn't mean there's no value to the book. There is still value because this cover alone is a pretty in-demand cover. But it does mean that it has less value than I thought it was going to have, which, obviously sucks. Because I was thinking this was going to probably be like a, I don't know, $400 to $500 book. And down at this, with this, it's like $125 book, something like that. But still, there's still value there. So just always remember that. So we'll go over the interior for that to kind of show you what I saw there. And then with the Superman number 61, this one, I mean, this is attached, everything's fine with that. It has some mouse chew and that kind of stuff in the corner here, and it's on the back too. But the issue with this one is there's an ad page on the inside, and there's just a big piece that's ripped out. It doesn't look like it's somebody like tore out like something to send in. It's just that page looks damaged. And so it doesn't affect the story, but there is a big piece that's like missing like this on that ad page. And so it depends on how you grade it. Like CGC might give that a 0.5 just because it's missing a big piece. CBCS, you might get like a 1.0 or a 1.5. Now it does have this mouse chew and that kind of thing. So it is a decent looking copy, especially in the Mylar. Like it's a solid looking book. All the stuff is still there for the key reason it's there, but missing pieces from in the interior can have significant impacts on the value of the book. And so same thing here, this was a book that was probably going to be maybe $400, somewhere in that range, and it's going to be less than that. Now that it has that missing interior piece. But all right, let's flip the camera around. Let's check out these books.
A few moments later.
All right, so let's start with the Action Comics number 89/73 here. So first thing you can see, staples definitely aren't attached. It's kind of like pushed through at the staples. But colors are really fantastic on this copy. That's what's unfortunate. I mean, I expected it to be a detached cover, so I figured, maybe I could get like a 3.5, somewhere in that range. The top you're going to get with a detached cover is a 4.0. But, I mean, maybe, but probably not. There's a few other things on it, but, I mean, great looking copy, great colors. There's like a printer crease right here, if you're wondering what these are. There's a couple little printer creases. That's why there are these color differences here. But the big thing here, this is what we'll notice first. We got 2 staple holes here. When you open up this book, now you don't see the staples at first, but when you flip the book back, you can see here, this is a single staple book. And so that's why you might not catch it right at first when you open it up, because there are no, you're like, oh, the staples are offset on the back. But you can see it's actually a single staple book, and so obviously that's like the first thing you look for. If you have a detached cover, detached centerfold, you check for staple alignment, because staple alignment is going to be like the biggest tell of something being wrong with a married, like a married cover, married centerfold, whatever it is. Now you can see like there's some like a bunch of foxing and stuff on this on the interior of this book, but actually the page quality is pretty nice. I mean, you look at this, like the page quality interior of this 73 is actually very nice for this book, but I mean, it's got its own issues, that kind of thing. But that's the immediate red flag. Now, the other thing, like if you hadn't caught that, when you're going through the book, obviously you count the pages. And so the place I usually check is either Go Collect often has the page numbers, or you can use the Grand Comics database. It's www.comics.org. And you look it up and they will give you the page number for just about any book in existence. And it's the total pages, including covers. So for Action Comics 89, that will say that the page count is 52, what is up here. Sometimes that 52 doesn't include the cover. Like for some books, that page count is the interior. So that's why you can't just trust what's on the cover always. You do want to go look up some resource like that. But you can see here, so we've got the Action Comics number 89, the interior, and we're going to start doing the page count. So, and you can, check out the interior story of Action Comics 73. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now you can see that this was the end of the Superman story. So at this point in Action Comics, there's a mix of stories. It's not all Superman. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if this was actually a 52-page book, this is where the centerfold would be. It would be at 12 pages, and you can see obviously there is no centerfold there, so we keep going. 13, 14. And here's the centerfold. There's the single staple for the centerfold. Now we start going to the back side. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see you got a World War II story in here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So there should have been 3 more pages that you went through. So there's something that's torn out on the inside. I didn't check exactly what, but there are 3 pages missing on the second half of this book. So then obviously here we've got the back cover, and then there's the back cover for this. So 2 pretty obvious things, that can tell you what's going on. One is the staples don't, the staple holes don't line up. And then 2, page count. Like, you always check the page count. Now, if you're wondering, how do you find this? Because the interior doesn't actually have any details on it for the story. So you can see down here on the indicia, this is where it says Action Comics number 89, October 1945. That's where you have the information about the book on the cover. And so to find something like this, one of the way that I actually found it was I did a Google search for Action Comics, because we do know it's Action Comics here, and I looked up the Hobby Robbers. And so when I did that, I found just a search popped up with Action Comics 73. Then what I did was I went to the Grand Comics database, and if you go to that, most of the books will have the actual names for the stories that occur throughout the book. It has that level of detail. And you can see for Action Comics 73, the Hobby Robbers is the first story, and you can find the other stories as well. Like as you're going through, like Vigilante is in there. And so that's one way that you can try to figure out what an interior is, because otherwise it can be very difficult to figure out which book that interior goes with. But the Grand Comics database and just a Google search is a very good reference point. All right, so now let's take a look at the Superman number 61.
A few moments later.
All right, so here we are with the Superman number 61. So again, in general, like pretty decent colors and presentation on this book. Like you can see it's got this mouse chew that's on the top corner here, and it's a little worse on the back. See that mouse chew on the back there, and then there's some up here. None of that actually gets into the art though, so that's really not much of a concern to me. I mean, yeah, it's not like a positive, but it doesn't go into the art. But this was a book that I just wanted to check, make sure everything is there, everything is complete. And so we just start doing that, like the basic investigation of the book. I mean, you always check for color touch. I use a black light for that. It's also helpful to use just a really bright light and kind of look at it at an angle, and you can see things where the ink looks different in certain spots, and then that's one of the ways you can identify color touch. But that's not what we're talking about here. Didn't see any color touch on this book. We're talking about completeness of the book. So this is one that it is 52 pages, which means it should have the cover, then 12 pages to center, 12 more pages, then the back cover. So if we start here, got the cover, and you can actually see it is fully attached, which is it's a nice plus. Like, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of foxing and that on this copy as well, but it is fully attached. But let's start doing the page count here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and unlike Action Comics, this will be basically all Superman stories. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now we should be at the centerfold, which we are. You can see the 2 staples here, fully attached centerfold. So now let's start, counting to the back half. This is where we should get another 12 pages. 1, 2, 3, and here's the page with the issue. So this is page 4 from the centerfold. You can see it's got a big tear, which isn't a big deal, but it has this pretty substantial piece up here missing from the page. And you can see it's from this kind of like this ad page, and then this is also an ad here. So it's not part of the story, but it's still, like, it affects the ad on the interior. It will impact the grade. But that's 4. Now here's the Superman Returns to Krypton story. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Then the back cover. So you can see, like, everything is, like, the book is complete, the book is attached, other than that ad page interior, part. And so that's the thing, like, that does affect the book. It is something you need to notify people about if they're purchasing it. It still obviously has that first return to Krypton, the first green kryptonite, that kind of stuff, but it is missing that piece, and so it's just something you need to disclose when you're selling the book. But yeah, I mean, hopefully you saw some cool stuff, saw some cool interiors for books that maybe you aren't going to see every day, and helps with if you're ever purchasing. I mean, it's valuable for Silver, Bronze Age books too, but for Golden Age books especially, so much time has passed since these books were created. Like that Action Comics 89 was 1945. I mean, that is 79 years ago. The Superman 61, this one's 1949, so that would be 75 years ago. Oh, and this one, actually, you can see the indicia is on the first page, so you could actually connect this one correctly if it had the wrong cover. But hopefully you enjoyed this video and got some useful information out of it. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that video, saw some, some cool books. I mean, you get to see some, the interiors for some pretty cool books. Like, even though it's not Action 89 on the inside, it's Action 73, which is even earlier. And then, that first kryptonite, first green kryptonite for this one. But yeah, just, I thought this would be a good video to make, just because you just got to realize when you're buying collections, you're buying like a whole bunch of raw books, and the older they are, the more time that has passed that something could have happened. You got to check that stuff, and you just know that it is going to be part of buying those collections. Obviously, it sucks that it happened with 2 of the, the more expensive books that are in this collection. But, we'll deal with it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, all that kind of stuff. I got more videos over here. If you'd like to watch some of my other videos, subscription button is right here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.